He mocked the legend. But the alien warrior came anyway. The celestial inscription, Dr. Nadia Winters brushed dust from the stone tablet, her headlamp casting long shadows across the subterranean chamber. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp, earth and ancient secrets. At 43, she had expected more from her career than this, scrabbling around forgotten Sumerian ruins on a grant barely covering her expenses. "Find anything revolutionary yet, Dr. Winters?" called Emery, her graduate assistant from the chamber entrance. "Just more dust and disappointment," Nadia replied, adjusting her glasses. She ran her fingers over the intricate carvings, concentric circles with strange markings that resembled no language she'd ever studied. Yet something about their mathematical precision sparked a familiar excitement. 6 years ago, she had been the darling of academia with her theories on celestial navigation in ancient cultures. Then came the controversial paper suggesting astronomical knowledge beyond what ancient civilizations should have possessed. The academic world had labeled her a crackpot. Funding dried up, and now she taught introductory courses at Westridge Community College. "The university called," Emery said, checking his phone. "They want us back by the end of the week. Budget cuts." Nadia sighed. "Of course they do." She focused her attention back on the tablet. The markings were unusual, mathematical, sequences interwoven with astronomical symbols. Not Sumerian at all, but something else. For 3 days she worked tirelessly, photographing, measuring, and comparing the symbols to known ancient languages. On the final night, as a storm raged outside their small camp, something clicked. "It's not a language," she whispered to herself. "It's an equation, a celestial coordinate system." Using her astronomy software, she plotted the symbols as coordinates. They formed a pattern, a constellation that shouldn't exist. At the center was a series of 7 symbols that seemed to function as a key. "Stellar Nexus Kerathos," she pronounced, carefully testing the phonetic translation she'd derived. The tablet beneath her fingers grew warm. Outside, the storm intensified, lightning striking so close the ground trembled. Her computer screen flickered, numbers and symbols scrolling rapidly across it. "Dr. Winters?" Emery called from his tent. "I think we should—" A blinding light cut him off, flooding the chamber. Nadia shielded her eyes as the air crackled with electric potential. When the light faded, she lowered her arm and froze. Standing before her was a man, if he could be called that. Nearly 7 feet tall, with bronzed skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. His features were striking, angular cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that shifted color like the northern lights. He wore what appeared to be armor, though it moved like liquid metal, adjusting to his form as he studied her. "Karathos Venarum," he spoke, his voice resonating with harmonic undertones that made the air vibrate. Nadia stumbled backward, knocking over her equipment. "This isn't happening." The being tilted his head, then spoke again, this time in perfect English. "You invoked the stellar nexus. You carry the bloodline." He knelt before her, placing a fist against his chest. "I am Theron, guardian of the 7th Armada. I answer your summons." "I didn't summon anyone," Nadia managed, her scientific mind racing to rationalize the impossible. "This is a hallucination, sleep deprivation, or—" "Your blood recognizes what your mind denies," Theron responded, rising to his full height. "The stellar nexus cannot be activated by those who do not carry the ancient lineage." A crash from outside interrupted them. Emery burst into the chamber, wide-eyed and soaking. "Dr. Winters, military helicopters just landed at the village. They're asking about unusual energy signatures and—" He stopped mid-sentence, gaping at Theron. "They have detected the quantum breach," Theron said, his armor brightening. "The sentinels of your world always monitor for our return." "Sentinels? Military?" Nadia's head spun. "What are you talking about?" Theron approached the entrance, peering out into the storm. "Your world's governments have known of our existence for millennia. They hunt for our technology, our knowledge." He turned to her, expression grave. "And now they hunt for you." As if confirming his words, the sound of vehicles and shouting men reached them through the downpour. "This is insane." Nadia whispered. We must leave, Theron urged. Once they confirm the breach, they will secure this location and extract all who witnessed it. Extract? Emery's voice cracked. Like take us away? Theron nodded solemnly. Your civilization is not ready for the knowledge we possess. Those who encounter beings like me rarely return to their former lives. Headlights swept across the entrance. Emery looked between Nadia and the advancing vehicles. I can stall them, he decided. Give you time to figure this out. Before she could protest, he slipped out into the rain. Your companion shows courage, Theron observed. Nadia grabbed her backpack, stuffing her notebook and the tablet inside. He's just a student. He shouldn't be involved. Few choose their involvement with cosmic forces, Theron replied. He extended, his hand palm up. We must go. Now. Where? How? Nadia demanded, even as the voices outside grew louder. I possess limited translocation abilities, he explained. Enough to escape immediate danger. And if I refuse? If I stay and explain this, is all a misunderstanding? Theron's expression softened, unexpectedly human. Dr. Nadia Winters, you have spent your life searching for evidence that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge beyond their means. You were ridiculed for theories that came too close to the truth. His extraordinary eyes held hers. Now that truth stands before you, will you turn away? Heavy footsteps approached the chamber entrance. Voices barked orders. Nadia stared at his outstretched hand, her entire worldview crumbling around her. With a deep breath, she placed her hand in his. His skin was warm, almost hot, and a current of energy passed between them that made her gasp. The first transition is disorienting, he warned, pulling her against his armored chest. Focus on my heartbeat. The chamber door burst open as uniformed men rushed in, weapons raised. But Theron had already activated something in his armor, and the world around them dissolved into particles of light. Reality reassembled in fragments, sensation first, then sound, finally sight. Nadia collapsed onto soft grass, her stomach heaving. When the nausea subsided, she looked up to find they stood atop a hill overlooking a small town, its lights twinkling in the valley below. Where are we? She gasped. Approximately 300 miles from our previous location, Theron answered, scanning their surroundings. My capabilities are limited in your planet's current electromagnetic field. What just happened? Nadia demanded, struggling to her feet. Who were those men? What do you mean by my blood recognizes and what? All will be explained, Theron interrupted gently. But first we must find shelter. The quantum displacement will be tracked. They descended through a forested slope, Nadia's mind racing with questions. After 30 minutes of silent hiking, they came upon an old ranger station, its windows dark. Abandoned but structurally sound, Theron observed, breaking the lock with disturbing ease. Inside, dust covered everything, but the roof was intact. Nadia switched on her flashlight as Theron secured the entrance. Start talking, she demanded, setting her backpack down. What are you, why me, and what happens now? Theron's armor reconfigured, becoming less bulky while maintaining its protective properties. He sat across from her, his movements fluid and graceful despite his size. My people visited Earth thousands of years ago, he began. We were explorers, scientists. We discovered that humans share certain genetic markers with our species, markers that suggest a common ancestry far in your evolutionary past. You're saying aliens and humans are related? Nadia asked incredulously. The universe seeds life in patterns, he replied. But in some humans we found more than distant relation. We found potential, dormant abilities similar to our own. His eyes met hers. In each era, we selected individuals with these markers to serve as connections between our worlds. The knowledge we shared became the foundation for many of your ancient wonders. The astronomical knowledge I found in ancient cultures, Nadia whispered. It wasn't just observation, it was taught. Theron nodded. But not all my kind believed in peaceful exchange. Some saw Earth as a resource to be exploited, humans as subjects for experimentation. A conflict erupted, and those of us who sought to protect humanity withdrew to prevent destructive technology from falling into the wrong hands. So the ancient astronaut theories were partially right, Nadia mused. Indeed. The Guardians like myself remained connected to our chosen humans, through artifacts like your tablet, dormant until activated by those with the proper bloodline. And you think I'm one of these chosen? I know you are. The stellar nexus responds only to those who carry our genetic signature. His expression grew serious. But your summoning came too early. According to our calculations, Earth was not to reach the cosmic junction for another 50 years. A sound outside made them both tense. Theron moved with liquid grace to the window, peering carefully into the darkness. They're tracking your electronic devices, he said. Your phone, computer, anything with a signal. Nadia turned off her phone and laptop. Will that help? Temporarily. He approached her, raising his hand. May I? She hesitated, then nodded. He placed his palm against her forehead. A warm sensation spread through her as his hand emitted a soft glow. A quantum dampening field, he explained. It will mask your bioelectric signature temporarily. His face was inches from hers, his scent unlike anything she'd encountered. Like ozone after a lightning strike, mixed with something impossibly ancient. For a moment, something electric passed between them, a connection that transcended their differences. I will protect you, Nadia Winters, he whispered. It is my sworn duty and honor. And despite everything, the danger, the impossibility of her situation, the complete upending of her understanding of human history, Nadia believed. Dawn broke over the forest as they prepared to move again. Theron had explained that they needed to reach a place called the Celestial Anchor, one of 3 sites on Earth where his people had left technology that could help them contact the Armada. As Nadia shouldered her backpack, she caught sight of her reflection in a broken window, disheveled, exhausted, but with a fierce light in her eyes she hadn't seen in years. Ready? Theron asked, his armor reconfiguring for travel. Nadia took a deep breath. For the first time in her life, the universe was proving to be even more extraordinary than she had dared to imagine. Ready, she answered, stepping into her new reality. Beyond, the Vale, the mountain pass offered little shelter as a cold wind whipped through the pines. 3 days had passed since Nadia's world had turned upside down. 3 days of constant movement, avoiding main roads, and sleeping in abandoned structures. Her academic life felt like a distant memory. Your thermal signature indicates dropping body temperature, Theron observed, his eyes shifting to a concerned amber hue. I'm fine, Nadia insisted, though her shivering betrayed her. Unlike her otherworldly companion, she lacked armor that regulated temperature. We will find proper shelter soon, Theron promised. The second celestial anchor lies 10 miles ahead. They crested a ridge, revealing a breathtaking valley below. In the distance, ancient ruins jutted from the mountainside, too geometric to be natural formations. Is that it? Nadia asked, squinting through the fading light. Yes, the Temple of Cosmic Convergence. Your people built it under our guidance 5,000 years ago. As they made their descent, Nadia's mind processed the implications of everything Theron had shared. The patterns she'd devoted her career to studying weren't coincidences or parallel development. They were deliberate knowledge transfer from an advanced civilization. You said there were 3 celestial anchors, she recalled. What happens when we reach them all? Theron was silent for a moment, navigating a treacherous slope before answering. The anchors form a triangulation network. When activated, they create a quantum gateway allowing communication with my kind. And then what? His expression darkened. It depends on what we discover. Your premature activation of the tablet concerns me. It may indicate that the harvesters have returned. The faction that wanted to exploit humans? Theron nodded grimly. If they've breached the barriers we established, Earth faces grave danger. The Temple ruins loomed larger as they approached. Massive stone blocks carved with the same mathematical symbols Nadia had found on the tablet. Unlike the public ruins she'd spent her career studying, these showed no signs of excavation or tourism. They remained hidden, protected by their remote location. How has no one found this? She wondered aloud. The location is quantum shielded. It appears differently to those without the genetic markers, just another mountainside. They entered, through a narrow passage, Theron's armor emitting a subtle glow that illuminated their path. Inside, the air was surprisingly warm, stirring with energy that made the hairs on Nadia's arms stand on end. "The anchor is active," Theron said, his voice hushed with reverence. "It senses your presence." The passage opened into a vast chamber. At its center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with blue light, sending patterns dancing across the ancient walls. "It's beautiful," Nadia breathed. "It is alive," Theron replied. "A sentient technological hybrid created by my ancestors." As they approached, the crystal's glow intensified. Patterns within it shifted, responding to their presence. "Place your hand upon it," Theron instructed. Nadia hesitated. "What will happen?" "The anchor will recognize your genetic signature and calibrate. It will also—" He paused. "It may awaken dormant abilities within you." With a deep breath, Nadia pressed her palm against the crystal. Instantly, energy surged through her body, not painful but overwhelming. Images flooded her mind. Stars exploding into existence, civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, beings of light and energy crossing the vast darkness between galaxies. When the vision faded, she found herself on her knees, Theron supporting her with steady hands. What just happened?" she gasped. "The anchor shared its memories," he explained, "and it has awakened part of your heritage." Nadia looked down at her hands, noticing for the first time a subtle luminescence beneath her skin, similar to Theron's but fainter. "I'm changing, evolving," he corrected. "Your dormant genetic potential is being activated." Before she could process this, the crystal flashed red. Theron stiffened, placing himself between Nadia and the entrance. "We have company," he growled, his armor reconfiguring into a more defensive formation. "The military has found us." Outside, the whir of helicopter blades echoed through the mountains. Flashlight beams swept across the temple entrance. "How?" Nadia demanded. "We've been so careful." The anchor's activation created a quantum surge, impossible to hide. Theron's eyes narrowed. "But there is something else, something wrong with their energy signatures." A figure appeared at the chamber entrance, a soldier in tactical gear. But as the light caught his face, Nadia gasped. His eyes glowed with an unnatural purple light, his movements too fluid, too precise. "Harvester proxies," Theron snarled. "Humans under their control." The soldier raised his weapon, but Theron moved with blinding speed. A pulse of energy from his armor sent the man flying backward. More took his place, their movements synchronized with inhuman precision. "The crystal," Theron shouted to Nadia. "Complete the calibration sequence." As Theron engaged the controlled soldiers, Nadia turned back to the crystal. Instinctively, she knew what to do, knowledge transmitted during the vision. She pressed both hands against the crystal's surface, focusing her thoughts on the mathematical sequences from the tablet. The chamber shook as Theron battled the intruders. A stray bullet struck the wall near Nadia's head, showering her with stone fragments. "Hurry!" Theron called, his armor absorbing impacts that would have killed a human instantly. The crystal pulsed faster, its color shifting from blue to white. Symbols appeared on its surface, reorganizing themselves into new patterns. Nadia felt the energy building, flowing through her into the crystal and back again in a continuous loop. "It's working!" she shouted. A deafening boom shook the chamber as the crystal released a blinding pulse of energy. When Nadia's vision cleared, the controlled soldiers lay motionless on the ground. "Are they?" she began. "Unconscious," Theron confirmed, approaching one to check. The pulse severed the harvester's control temporarily. He turned to her, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. You've successfully activated the second anchor. What happens now? We must reach the third before the harvesters realize what we've done. He studied the crystal, which now glowed with a steady amber light. The anchors are communicating. They will help shield us as we travel. Nadia looked down at her hands. Again. The luminescence had grown stronger, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Theron, what's happening to me? He approached her, his armor reconfiguring to a less threatening form. Your dormant genetic heritage is awakening. The abilities my kind possess, energy manipulation, enhanced cognition, cellular regeneration, they slumber in your DNA. Will I become like you? Not exactly. You are still human, but more than human. His eyes softened. It will be disorienting, but I will guide you. A groan from one of the fallen soldiers reminded them of their precarious situation. We should move, Theron urged. More will come. They exited through a hidden passage on the opposite side of the temple, emerging onto a narrow trail that wound through dense forest. As they hiked, Nadia noticed changes in her perception. Colors seemed more vivid, sounds clearer, and occasionally she could sense Theron's emotions as faint impressions against her consciousness. Where is the third anchor? She asked as they made camp in a sheltered ravine. Antarctica, Theron replied, creating a small energy field to warm their makeshift shelter. The most remote and hardest to reach. Antarctica? How are we supposed to get there? There are ways. He studied her, thoughtfully. But first, you must learn to control your emerging abilities. They will be essential for what comes next. Over the next days as they traveled south, Theron taught Nadia to harness the energy flowing through her. Simple exercises at first, focusing her energy to create light, sensing the life forces around her, accelerating her body's healing. Each success brought new confidence, each failure new determination. Your progress is remarkable, Theron observed one evening as they rested in an abandoned cabin. Most humans take years to adapt to the awakening. I don't feel human anymore, Nadia admitted, watching the subtle glow pulse beneath her skin. Not entirely. You are what your ancestors were meant to become, Theron said, sitting beside her. Before the harvesters interfered with your species' development. Something in his voice made her look up. There's more to this story, isn't there? Something you haven't told me. Theron was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ancient sorrow. My kind didn't merely visit Earth. Some of us stayed, bonded with humans. Children were born, hybrids with extraordinary potential. His eyes met hers. Your distant ancestors. You're saying I'm part alien? I'm saying the distinction between species is rarely as clear as one might think. He gestured to the stars visible through the cabin window. Life flows through the cosmos in patterns, Nadia. We are all connected. A comfortable silence fell between them. Nadia found herself studying Theron's face, less alien to her now than it had been days ago. The connection between them had grown stronger, a bond that transcended their differences. The Sentinel-Guardian bond, Theron said, sensing our thoughts. It forms naturally between us. Can you read my mind? Nadia asked, both disturbed and intrigued. Not thoughts, but emotions, intentions. As we grow closer, the connection deepens. Heat rose to Nadia's cheeks. And how close did these connections typically become? Theron's eyes shifted to a deep blue, betraying emotion his stoic face concealed. In the ancient days, many guardian sentinel pairs became more than partners in duty. They became life-bonded. Life-bonded? United in all ways. His voice softened, but such bonds were never forced, never predetermined. They evolved naturally or not at all. The tension between them was interrupted by a distant sound, engines approaching. They've found us again, Theron said, rising swiftly. Nadia gathered. Their few possessions. How do they keep tracking us? Theron's expression darkened. I fear the harvesters have more advanced technology than I anticipated. We need to reach the third anchor without delay. They slipped out the back of the cabin as vehicles approached from the main road. Using their enhanced abilities, they moved through the forest with supernatural speed and silence. 2 days later, they reached the coast. A small fishing village huddled against the cold Atlantic winds. "We need transportation," Theron said, observing a harbor filled with vessels. "A ship that can navigate Antarctic waters." "We can't just steal a boat," Nadia protested. "No," Theron agreed, "but perhaps we can earn passage." In the village pub, they found Captain Ronan Fletcher, a grizzled veteran of southern waters with a reputation for asking few questions. For a substantial payment, drawn from emergency funds Theron had somehow accessed, he agreed to take them as far south as the ice would allow. The journey was treacherous. Winter storms lashed the ship, and twice they narrowly avoided detection by military vessels. During the long days at sea, Theron continued Nadia's training. By the time Antarctic ice appeared on the horizon, she could manipulate energy fields, heal minor injuries, and communicate telepathically with Theron over short distances. "The anchor is located beneath the ice shelf," Theron explained as they prepared to leave the ship. "We will need to use the phase shift technology in my armor to reach it." Captain Fletcher eyed them suspiciously as they prepared their minimal gear. "Whatever you two are mixed up in, I don't want to know, but that ice shelf is unstable. Been calving like crazy this season." "We'll be careful," Nadia promised, though she knew their mission entailed risks far beyond falling ice. As they stepped onto the frozen continent, Nadia felt a resonance, a pull toward something ancient buried beneath the ice. She could sense it now, with her awakened abilities. "It's calling to me," she whispered. Theron nodded. The anchors recognized their sentinel. They trekked across the frozen wasteland, Nadia's enhanced physiology allowing her to withstand cold that would have killed an ordinary human. After hours of walking, they reached a vast crevasse in the ice. "Down there," Theron said. "The anchor is beneath us." He activated his armor's phase shift capabilities, enveloping them both in a protective field. "Hold tight," he instructed, wrapping an arm around her waist. "This will be disorienting." They stepped off the edge, passing through solid ice as if it were mist. Nadia's stomach lurched as they descended, the blue-white world around them transforming into ancient stone and crystal. They emerged in a vast chamber larger than the previous anchor site. At its center stood not one crystal formation but a complex arrangement of interlocking structures that hummed with power. "The primary anchor," Theron breathed, reverence in his voice. "The first established on Earth." Nadia approached, drawn by an irresistible pull. As she neared the crystal matrix, it responded to her presence, illuminating with increasing intensity. "What do I do?" she asked, though she already sensed the answer. "Complete the connection," Theron replied. "Finish what you started." She placed her hands on the central crystal. Immediately, energy surged through her with far greater intensity than before. The chamber filled with blinding light as the crystal configuration reorganized itself, responding to her touch. Visions flooded her mind, not of the past this time, but of the present. She saw ships, massive beyond comprehension, approaching. Earth's solar system. Harvester vessels carrying beings who viewed humanity as resources to be exploited. "They're coming," she gasped as the vision cleared. "The harvesters. They're already at the edge of our solar system." Theron's expression hardened. "Then we have activated the anchors just in time." The crystal matrix pulsed, sending a beam of energy upward through the ice. Similar beams would be emerging from the other two anchor sites, triangulating to create a protective field around Earth. "Will it stop them?" Nadia asked. "No," Theron admitted. "But it will alert the Armada. My people will come." A rumble shook the chamber, ice cracked overhead. "The energy surge is destabilizing the shelf," Theron warned. "We must leave." As they prepared to phase back through the ice, the chamber entrance exploded inward. Through the debris stepped a figure that made Theron freeze in shock. It appeared human at first glance, a woman in a sleek military uniform. But her eyes glowed. with the same purple light as the controlled soldiers, and when she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that echoed painfully in Nadia's mind. "Guardian," she said, addressing Theron. "How predictable you are, activating the old defenses." "Harvester," Theron growled, positioning himself between the newcomer and Nadia. "You wear a human form now." "This vessel serves its purpose," the Harvester replied, gesturing to her human body. "As have the human governments who have unknowingly assisted us for decades." "So the military really was working with you," Nadia realized. The Harvester's gaze shifted to her, cold and calculating. "Not willingly. They believe they are containing alien threats. Meanwhile, we study their weapons, their infrastructure, preparing for the harvest." "You will fail," Theron declared. "The anchors are active. The Armada will respond." "Too late," the Harvester smiled. "Our ships are already here." The chamber shook more violently. Cracks spread across the ice ceiling. "No time for this," Theron muttered, activating his armor's weapon systems. Energy crackled between his hands as he unleashed a devastating blast at the Harvester. She blocked it with a shield of her own, but the deflected energy struck the chamber walls, accelerating the collapse. "Nadia, go!" Theron shouted, engaging the Harvester in combat. Their movements were too fast for normal human eyes to follow, but Nadia's enhanced senses tracked every blow. "Not without you," she cried, drawing on her new abilities to hurl energy at the Harvester. The distraction gave Theron the opening he needed. His next attack sent the Harvester crashing into the crystal matrix, which flared with protective energy. "Now," he called, grabbing Nadia's hand. His armor enveloped them both as they phase-shifted upward through the collapsing chamber. They emerged onto the ice shelf as a massive section broke away, plunging into the ocean below. Behind them, a column of energy continued to pulse skyward from the anchor, unaffected by the destruction around it. "Did we stop her?" Nadia asked, gasping for breath. "Temporarily," Theron replied grimly, "but there will be others." They made their way back to the ship, the Antarctic wind howling around them. As they reached the coast, Nadia looked up at the night sky, her enhanced vision detecting subtle disturbances in Earth's upper atmosphere. "What happens now?" she asked. Theron followed her gaze upward. "Now we prepare. The Harvesters will regroup, and the Armada will come." He turned to her, his expression softening. "But you are not alone in this fight, Nadia Winters. Not anymore." As Captain Fletcher's ship cut through the dark waters heading north, Nadia reflected on how completely her life had changed. The academic who had sought ancient knowledge was gone, replaced by a woman awakening to her cosmic heritage, a sentinel bound to a guardian from the stars. Above them, unseen by human eyes, the cosmic chessboard was being set. Earth had become the focal point of an ancient conflict, with humanity's fate hanging in the balance. And at the center of it all stood Nadia and Theron, bound by duty, by blood, and by something deeper neither had yet fully acknowledged. "We will face what comes," Theron promised, standing beside her at the ship's rail. "Together." Nadia nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. For the first time since this journey began, she felt not fear, but purpose. Together, she agreed. The end.